What if I cut a hole in the crotch of these underpants? Would that be sexy? Like, if you see that, would you get aroused?
It's probably not me.
Hello, friends. Trace amounts of science. Promise swears he's just a fact. Welcome back to ReddX. We're back into the Little Moon saga today. We had one previous part where I went through like 4 chapters in a prologue. We're going to see how many we can get through today. It's exceedingly well written and enjoyable so far. So let's go ahead and see what we got. And hey, also, thanks for being here today. The Little Moon Saga, Chapter 5. Warning, NSFW description. Yeah, we gotta censor that the best we can. So as we waited for Little Moon to finish her shower, the time passed at an excruciatingly slow rate. Wilson smoked one cigarette after another as I rapidly changed the channels on the TV, from channel 1 to 74, and then all the way back again. Wilson's phone suddenly pinged, alerting him of an incoming message. He glanced at the screen and his expression quickly turned grim. I peeked at the message, which shockingly read, "Dear Wilson, I entrusted my daughter to you. I hope you two have lots of fun." Ew. Wilson's face was as dark as the stormy sky. I, on the other hand, decided to decode the meaning behind this message, which was obviously from Little Moon's mother. What did she even mean by have fun? Have fun in Shanghai? Or, God forbid, like, have fun, wink wink, with Little Moon? Oh, I don't know, OP. I think her and her mom are pretty much on the same page here. It's not as innocent as it appears. If I had to guess, I'd say that Little Moon was the one having the most fun out of all 3 of us, as she enjoyed tormenting us and making our holiday as miserable as possible. Finally, Little Moon emerged from the bathroom, a white towel wrapped around her body. At least she had the basic decency to cover herself up this time. I breathed a sigh of relief. I really don't think that my poor eyes would be able to handle another episode of her tease show. Yeah, I'd argue that the tease show was marginally better than flopping around in her suitcase like a beached whale, but neither one was pleasant, I'll grant you that. I clearly celebrated a bit too soon, as Little Moon began her Oscars-grade dramatic performance yet again. Yes, I'm bathed and refreshed. Now let's make things miserable once more.
No thanks, bro.
With one hand on her forehead, the other holding on to the wall, and her bath towel dangerously hanging off of her globular body, Little Moon began to moan, her face flushed bright pink. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready for, what is this, round 3 now? I think I'm intent on leaving this hotel room. Seeing her in this absurd state, I began to question if the hotel had perhaps equipped a male escort for her personal use in the bathroom. Yeah, go check. Little Moon continued to moan and mewl and squeal as she began to squeak between her shallow and broken breaths. "Wilson, my dearest, I'm having low blood sugar. I was feeling dizzy in the shower. If anyone's a medical professor here, can you please explain to me, do people actually get dizzy during showers if they have low blood sugar? The sort of dizziness that warrants a moaning fit? Well, I don't know. Did you eat a case of Snickers while you were in the shower? Because that might have something to do with it. Little Moon at the time was moaning very hard. Even a professional adult film actress would have admired her efforts. Little Moon slowly extended her hand toward Wilson and said in a weak voice, "My dearest, I'm feeling faint. Come and help me." I looked at Wilson awkwardly, and he silently took out another cigarette from his pocket.
So, today I'm going to be day drinking and smoking cigarettes at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which I am quite excited to do.
Yeah, I'm not going near that. I'm going to sit here and smoke until I die or the weekend is over. Seeing that her seduction antics drew no response from Wilson, Little Moon stomped her foot in frustration. Yeah, dearest! If you don't help me now, I'm gonna faint right here! I thought to myself, if I don't intervene, who knows what kind of ridiculous stunts she might pull. Would it be a tragic K-drama? Or an R-rated scene? Well, It's basically a 50-50 chance since she seemed to be a master of both. Connoisseur of both, yes. Clearly poisoned by both, yes. A master? We're not even there. We're not even close to there. I hurriedly rushed to her, holding her body still with one hand, and wiped the water/sweat mixture on her face messily with her bath towel. Trying my best to contain my disgust, I repeated a quote that I heard from a movie a long time ago. She's not a human, she's just a pumpkin. Yeah, you just think of her as a pumpkin. That's probably good for, working with dead bodies. This pumpkin's really smelly, though. The quietness in the room is deafening, so I said the first thing on my mind to break the awkward silence. What happened to the banana skin? I hope you didn't flush it down the toilet, because it might get all clogged up. I immediately regretted this, as I realized that it's always best to keep my lips zipped in this sort of situation. Yeah, basically any situation, that's true. You never want to reveal too much. Little Moon lifted her head and squinted at me through teary eyes and asked, "Do you really not understand?" I smiled at her in ignorance, although inwardly I was crying. Yeah, that's okay, Little Moon. I really would prefer not to understand, I guess. We're going out this afternoon, so, why don't you just get dressed? Little Moon interrupted me firmly.
Weren't you asking about the banana skin just a second ago?
Oh, we're just gonna get stuck on that now. Please, can we not? I would have slapped the face of my idiotic self a minute ago for 1,000 times, if I could. Of all the questions on Earth, why did my dumbass ask about the banana skin? I don't know. It seemed like an interesting thing. It's sort of stuck in my mind as well. Little Moon laid down on the bed and began to get dressed slowly and seductively. Yeah, I guess that's better than the other way around, marginally. I quickly sat down in my chair, glad that she was no longer in my face. Wilson had finished all of his cigarettes. I was fumbling around in the ashtray looking for unfinished cigarette butts. Dude, Wilson's... He's not much of a catch either, I think. But when you're placed next to Little Moon, God, she'll make anybody look like a prize. Little Moon smoothed down the imaginary wrinkles in her long sweater as she began her educational lecture.
I just have to tell you about the banana skin because it has surprisingly underrated skincare properties. You know, it not only makes your nips pink, but your lady parts too. Of course, I always make sure to wipe it down when I shower, and that's my beauty secret.
Yeah, that seems to be working. My lips were trembling as I blamed myself over and over for ever even starting this cursed topic. Wilson found a few cigarette butts and laid them out neatly on the table, his hands still shaking. Yeah, something's going on with that guy, you know. Little Moon continued,
When you wipe your lady parts, you gotta make sure that you don't touch the hairs. You gotta wipe it from back to front, starting from the little flower. You know what part I'm talking about, right?
Girl, please stop. No more of this, okay? If we could just never again, thank you.
That's it! I have had enough! You get out!
She looked at me to make sure that I was following what she was saying. I nodded in pain, hopelessly hoping that she would get the idea that I have no interest in learning anything about her wretched routine. Little Moon gave Wilson a sly smile and a suggestive look.
Dearest, my girl parts are pink too. No.
Wilson's face began to violently seize as if he were having a stroke. Little Moon looked as if she was ready to throw another temper tantrum, so I quickly cut in. Did you flush the banana skin down the toilet? Because I really hope that you didn't clog the toilet. That was clearly the wrong thing to say. I mean, who cares about the toilet anyway when you got bigger problems to worry about? Little Moon gave me a sideways glance and said casually,
Why would I waste it by throwing it away? Of course I ate it after. You know, banana skins are great for weight loss.
You are an ant. How do you even?
You can't do it. It's disgusting.
The whole skin? You choke that down? I think you might have an intestinal blockage of some sort. This You can't do that. Her words just resonated inside my skull over and over again, like 1,000 hammer strikes, as my internal monologue silently cried out, "Why the fuck did you ask about the banana skin? Why'd you ask about the banana skin? Why the fucking fuck did you ask about the banana skin?" Why? Oh, why? Translator's note, little flower is a Chinese slang word for the beehole. Why? Because of the butthole spokes? We call it a chocolate starfish around these parts. You're welcome. You can have that. You could use that if you want.
Gubbin's stomach made of iron, but this too much. Banana no deserve this fate. Poor yellow long boy. Gubbins.
Poor yellow long boy. So true. So true. As far as cringe factor, I mean, yeah, there's a significant amount here, but I don't think anything will be part 4 or part 3. Whatever it was. I guess we'll have to keep on journeying through and see. Can we reach new depths? I'm sure that we can. So join me over there. The Little Moon Saga, Chapter 6. After the shocking exchange about the banana peel skincare method, Wilson could hardly sit still in his seat and wait for his impending doom. Yeah, you think he's gonna make it through the night alive? Yeah, I understand him, sort of. But at no point did you try to flee for your own life, so like, how can I have that much sympathy? You didn't want to live that bad. With all of his cigarettes finished and no more butts to be fished out of the ashtray and nothing else to contain the sense of dread emitting from his heart, he suddenly stood up and cut off Little Moon with one concise sentence. "I'm gonna get cigarettes. I'll wait for you outside." Little Moon was busy putting on her sweater as perfectly as possible, but upon hearing that Wilson was planning to leave, she hurriedly pulled it on. To be honest, when I saw her wearing such a thick, knitted garment in warm weather, without anything underneath, I couldn't help but feel itchy and uncomfortable in my own skin. Yeah, that thing's gonna be gross. You bring it home, you're gonna have to wring it out and be filled with sweat. At this moment, I finally understood why Little Moon's chest was so saggy, with the nips almost pointed directly at the floor. It's because she never wore a bra. After putting on her sweater, she wriggled into her jeans, breathed in, tucked her belly fat under the waistband, wrangled to buckle up her belt with the utmost difficulty, and then she yelled at Wilson, "Dearest, wait for me! Let's go together!" I really would rather not. People might see me with you and assume things. It's gonna get weird. But he takes it on the chin. At last, Little Moon steps into her 15-centimeter high heels with surprising agility, her overall shape roughly resembling a massive marshmallow on a stick. Failing to chase after Wilson with her bag in hand, she turned her head back and rolled her eyes at me. "Come on, you're so slow!" She hurriedly pushed me out of the room, locked the door, and finally caught up with Wilson at the front of the elevator. Everything that I've described happened in under 5 minutes, during which my brain almost frazzled itself trying to process everything. We left the hotel at around 3:30 p.m. with zero knowledge of what sort of chaotic tragedy was about to unfold before our eyes. I mean, we've seen a lot of chaotic tragedy today. This is just like a different brand of it, which I'm for, honestly. If I have to watch that big girl sweat all over the bed that I have to sleep in again, I'm good. I don't think I can stand it. So there was a supermarket not too far away from the hotel. Wilson breathed in deeply. His eyes darted around in the air for a while before he quietly asked me where he might get some more cigarettes. After I told him the directions, he said he'll go and buy some cigarettes. In the meantime, I was to stay with Little Moon at the entrance of the supermarket and wait for him. I held on to a hopeful thought that perhaps Little Moon would have a sense of decency in public spaces, and maybe would act more like a normal human being when there were other people around. Though God, or perhaps Satan, did not warn me of just how wrong I was. God, how I wish that were the case. A little case of personal dysfunction, that's fine. That's your problem. But this is everybody's problem. As I walked next to Little Moon toward the supermarket, she came closer to my side and asked secretively, "Do they sell underwear at the store?" I was quite surprised by her question, as I thought to myself, maybe she does understand that she needs to wear a bra after all. We got into the supermarket, and there was indeed an undies shop on the first floor. Wasn't anything special. Most of the stock had rather plain colors and designs. I mean, yeah, it's not fucking Victoria's Secret, it's a supermarket. First of all, let's be amazed that Chinese supermarkets just selling underwear right up there on the first floor in the front of the store. That's prime real estate. How many people buying underwear at the fucking supermarket? OP continues, at this point I was getting frustrated with Little Moon's erratic behavior. I decided to wait for her at the front of the shop. A voice inside my head told me nothing good comes from associating with her. You better distance yourself. Honestly, listen to that voice. As Little Moon browsed the shop and picked out different items, I thought evilly to myself, maybe she came here with the intention to get, like, sexy lingerie in order to seduce her, boyfriend. It was evident that Little Moon, well, she ain't got much taste. She got a few bras of different designs, but they were all the same beige color, the sort that's almost indistinguishable from your skin tone. And that suddenly made me remember a saying from a Chinese actress known for her elegance and style. Women should never buy lingerie in the color of beige, as it gives you zero charm or appeal. And yet, somehow, Little Moon favored beige? Jeez, I guess that really says something about her. Whatever, that Chinese actress don't know what the hell she's talking about. Really? Red underwear is what's done it for you? That's the magic ticket, huh?
We open today's bidding with this pair of panties confiscated from a prostitute.
$50.
I don't buy it. OP says, I stood aloof, watching people passing by, my heart heavy. And suddenly, Little Moon called out to me loudly, her voice a thunderclap to my ears. As I turned my head to look at her, I was so shocked that I nearly keeled over. Little Moon was holding a pair of underpants in each hand, one pair bikini style, one pair brief style. And she was waving them around frantically like flags as she shouted from a distance, Hey, girlfriend! Which pair is nicer? You know, the kind that make people feel excited and aroused? My face blushed furiously out of sheer embarrassment as I answered vaguely, Yeah, those are both pretty good. Just disappear into the crowd. Pretend you didn't hear her. About face and walk away. You don't need to participate in your own humiliation ritual, okay? You don't deserve all this. I could feel the passerby's curious stares almost stabbing into my body, and the sound of the shopkeeper's barely contained giggles ringing in my ears. However, I had clearly underestimated Little Moon. Still holding the underpants in her hands, she ran toward me and exclaimed excitedly,
See, what if I cut a hole in the crotch of these underpants? Would that be sexy? Like, if you see that, would you get aroused?
It's probably not me.
I was at a loss for any sort of answer. Cut a hole in the crotch. Little Moon was still yelling into my ears over and over.
Yeah, you like that? Does that make you feel hot and excited, does it? Does it?
It's a hell with arousal. If I were a guy, my dong would have retracted up into my body at the very sight of that. I would much rather be struck by holy lightning from the heavens than to ever be with her. I mean, yeah, for a multitude of reasons. It's not just that she's fat, see? It's that she's gross, dumb, like not a lick of common sense. I can't. The shop lady gave me an ambiguous, knowing smile, and I finally came to the unfortunate conclusion that she must have thought that Little Moon and I were a lesbian couple. I wish I had the bravery to yell at her, No, I'm not her fucking girlfriend! Absolutely not! And I suddenly regret my decision of not going into the shop. Hell, now everyone outside is looking at me. Could I just, dig a hole and hide in it? I mean, that is a valid strategy. In Minecraft! Unfortunately, I didn't bring a shovel. I'm not strong enough to punch down any trees and build one. So it is what it is.
Punching trees?
Why would we punch trees?
You punch the trees to get the wood. You get the wood to build the cabin.
The one thing I can say in favor of all this is at least Wilson gets a little break, you know? But then again, is that really fair? Because she's kind of been his problem from the start. That's your girl. Go get your girl, Wilson. She about to cut some holes in the pants that you bought her, Wilson.
She cut hole in pant for sexy time, but gubbins only feel deep, primal urge to run fast and far. Death by snoo is not an option. Gubbins.
Not an option, never was, that's right. We gonna get the hell out of here! But we gotta do at least one more story first, don't we? I'm pretty sure we do. The Little Moon Saga, Chapter 7. After everything that I had encountered in the past few hours, my life was practically left hanging by a single thread. I believed if I stayed with Little Moon for a few more days, you would probably have to talk to me from the other side, via a Ouija board. Before I continue, I hope that you will not doubt the authenticity of this story. My writings may suffice in describing the outward appearance of Little Moon, but to fully display her diabolical actions, legendary tantrums, and twisted mind, well, words are far too weak. You would have to be there to witness her in her evil glory, and your eyes would probably be burnt out, even if you wore glasses crafted out of diamond. Isn't that gonna make it worse? Concentrated horror focal point right on my retina? Anyway, going back to the underwear shop, I was unable to withstand Little Moon and her mortifying behaviors, and I came to the realization that the best way to deal with her was for me to get away. Yeah, Wilson figured that one out. I yelled at her, "I need to go to the bathroom!" And I turned on my heels and bolted, leaving Little Moon, curious bystanders, and, well, perhaps my dignity behind. Little Moon hollered at my rapidly shrinking silhouette,
Wait for me at the front after you finish peeing. I want to show you my new underpants.
and I nearly tripped over my own feet as an overwhelming sense of despair made me almost nauseous. "Fuck off with your new underpants!" I wanted to scream at her, but you see, I've always been a responsible person, as my mother raised me to be so. I could have just left Little Moon with some sort of made-up excuse, but that would have made my mom very upset, and, well, she's not a woman that you want to get on the bad side of. Anyway, I didn't actually need to use the bathroom, but it did help me to escape Little Moon, and as I arrived at the exit, I saw Wilson waiting there, holding a pack of cigarettes. A long pack. Yeah, a long pack of cigarettes, containing 10 individual boxes. Also like a carton. I don't know, I think it's a good idea. If you're gonna kill yourself, at least be economical about it.
Go rolled up tight and lit on fire. Suck 'em down till you expire.
A box has 20 cigarettes inside, so yeah, he got 200 cigarettes. Wilson saw me and gave me a sad look, mixed with sympathy, so I walked to him and we quietly waited for Little Moon to finish her underwear shopping. Wilson said, "You know, Little Moon and I are barely acquaintances. I had no idea." I was trying to hold back tears, and I replied, "Me either. We haven't been in contact for a long time, and when she was younger, she was a bit more normal." After that exchange, we stood in silence. Yeah, maybe that's for the best. What else can you say? Play a funeral dirge if you need to. The time was 4 p.m. on the 3rd of October. We finally saw Little Moon's oversized silhouette emerge from the supermarket exit, holding an LU, counterfeit LV, bag, which she brought from home, and in the other hand, what the hell was in that gigantic bag? Did she actually come to Shanghai just to do some underwear shopping? The bag was like the length and thickness of 2 big pillows put together, so you can only imagine how much underwear she had actually bought. I mean, I'm not gonna shame somebody for buying a lot of underwear. Who doesn't like a nice new pair of underwear? I ain't bought myself new underwear in like a fucking decade. They're all ripped and horrible. In this moment, right now, for just a second, Little Moon, sorta jealous. Anyway, my head began to throb again. I could just picture her lugging around this huge bag of underwear for the whole afternoon. Walking around the busiest tourist areas of Shanghai and, yeah, of course, the amount of stares that we would get. She walked towards us, completely oblivious to the middle-aged man trailing behind her, smiling obscenely. Does he have any taste at all? He liked them big girls.
I actually like fat people. I f with BBWs.
I was confused, why he would be interested in looking at someone like Little Moon, but then I spotted something in her hand and understood. A pair of tiny, semi-transparent purple thongs adorned with lace and bows. Little Moon mumbled something under her breath while pointing at the purple thong, and Wilson gave her a withering look from afar, and then focused on reopening his carton of cigarettes. I braced myself and approached her. "Oh, there you are, Little Moon. What are you doing?" Little Moon gave me a wild grin.
"Oh, girl, come and take a look."
She raised the hand that was holding the thong and gesticulated dramatically with one finger.
"See? I want to cut it open from the butt all the way to the front. What do you think?"
I think they're going to fall apart. You've destroyed the integrity of the fabric. The middle-aged man standing behind her began to giggle pervertedly. A pained, bitter expression overcame my face. I snatched the thong from Little Moon's hand and stuffed it in her bag and stole a glance at the contents. Unsurprisingly, it was filled to the brim with all sorts of bras and underpants. Unable to control my anger, I snapped at her. "Is it really appropriate to examine underwear in public? Pack it up! You could do that when you get back." The weird man continued his fit of giggling. Standing a few feet away, Wilson finally began to smoke the cigarettes that he had waited so long for. Well, damn, maybe Wilson's not as much of an addict as I thought. Then again, maybe he'd gone through one carton already while they were doing the initial underwear shopping. Anyway, Little Moon shot furious daggers at me with her eyes, grabbed the purple thong from her bag, and threw it at Wilson with so much force that it almost landed squarely on his face.
"Dearest, do you like it?"
Wilson was so shocked that he choked on his own cigarette smoke and began to cough uncontrollably. He stumbled backwards in alarm. Upon seeing that, Little Moon didn't care about showing off her new purchase anymore. Stuffing the thong into her bag, she ran to Wilson and held him firmly. Then she threw the entire bag of underwear into my lap and chided me.
"How inconsiderate of you, making my dear boyfriend cough like that. I'll know what'll make him feel better. Let's go and find something to eat."
Yeah, I'm sure that's for him. Poor Wilson tried his hardest to dodge Little Moon's hands, but his feeble struggle was far too weak against such a ferocious beast, and eventually Little Moon had an iron grip on his arm. Oh God. I was witnessing assault right in front of me, and yet I could not do a thing to stop it from happening. Fine. Maybe we actually would all feel better with some food inside our stomachs. Translator's note, I know there's not a great deal of fat logic in this chapter, but it has to be translated, otherwise the story wouldn't be coherent. Perhaps think of it as a filler chapter, a bad people story before a fat people story continuance. So yes, soon we will all bear witness to this woman eating, which I'm sure is going to be a real treat. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe if you did. Fourth wall merch if you want. Always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.
何バカ何バカ何バカ何バカ何バカ
Little Moon clinged to this poor man like barnacle. He better swim for shore before she dragged to bottom. Gubbins.